Hello, everybody. I'm Thrash Maniac HD, and welcome to the final episode, number 5, of the Avenged Sevenfold Discography review series. And we are at the final one now. I know Hail to the King came out after Nightmare, but I've already reviewed Hail to the King. It wouldn't make sense for me to review the same album twice. It just wouldn't really make sense, would it? But we are now at the grandiose finale, Nightmare. Now, sadly, before this album was released, when they were writing the album with Jimmy the Rev Sullivan, sadly, around December 28th, 2009, the Rev unfortunately passed away due to an enlarged heart from some times before where he did some drugs, but the drugs kind of came back after he was not doing as much as he was before. I think really all I think he took was painkillers. Sometimes when like standard painkillers, like in a standard way, like all of us do. Whenever we get headaches and whatnot, we take like one, maybe two, or even three painkillers. Now I guess that's what he did, but his past drug use, I guess, came back to him, and sadly he passed away from an enlarged heart, kind of similar to how Eddie Guerrero died. But he did write stuff on this album. This was the last album they did with any musical writings from the Rev. Even though he didn't play on this album on drums, he was always one of the main songwriters of the band, and he wrote the drum arrangements and some of the patterns to the songs. And as for who played drums on the album, very interesting, because I mentioned in the first episode that one of their big influences was Dream Theater, and they always ask in the interviews with the Rev who some of his favorite drummers was. Always consistently, one of them he would always mention was Mike Portnoy. And Mike Portnoy is one of those all-time greatest drummers in all of music, not just in metal or rock, but in all of music. The guy can play about anything. In the Rev, that was always one of his favorite drummers listening to, and he's one of my favorite drummers as well. Hell, both he and the Rev are two of my all-time biggest influences in for me playing drums. And so they asked Mike, because Mike was on a little bit of a downtime from the big Dream Theater tour they did for, I can't remember what the name of the album was that they had in 2009. I'd have to look it up. Or if somebody knows, leave it in a comment so I'll remember. But during his downtime, and because sadly the Rev passed away, they asked Mike if he could play on the album. He said, "Oh hell yeah, I like your guys' music. I'd be honored to play in tribute to him." And he did most of the tour for the album with the band. Although, in a sense, this was kind of the beginning of the end for Mike Portnoy and Dream Theater, because shortly after he was done touring, he was no longer in Dream Theater. And the story was for why he's not in Dream Theater was because he wanted to take a break, wanted to have the band take a break because they'd been going at the time for 25 straight years without taking an extensive break. Like he wanted them to take a break for at least a year, but they didn't want to wait, and he was like, well, I either have to go unwillingly and start the next album or step aside. And it's been 3 years since he's been kicked out, since he's been out of the band, but hopefully he can come back to the band at some point, get their issues resolved, and maybe do that break. But you never know. But anyways, back to the album. Nightmare was, in a way, their most darkest album they ever made. Like, there are songs on here that are very powerful song titles, and the lyrics to them are pretty powerful because of like this is probably their most angry album, and it was very dark. This was their darkest album. Musically, though, it kind of resembled City of Evil a little bit, because Mike, whenever he came into the band, he listened to their past albums and tried to really kind of learn the style the Rev played, which was mostly a lot of double bass driven, crazy drum filled vibes. So he kind of learned Rev's style, and he did a fantastic, perfect job with it. I thought it was a fantastic drumming album. But we kick off the album with the song Nightmare. And I'll say, yeah, this is the best song on the album. And it's the opener and the title track, Nightmare, a fantastic song. Very dark song. Just a fantastic song. And then we get another fantastic song in one of the big singles, Welcome to the Family. I thought it was a fantastic song. And then we get Danger Line, which in a way sounds eerily familiar to the song Blinded in Chains from City of Evil, with the riffs and the patterns to it. But Danger Line was a great song, and I like how it ends with the soft parts with a little bit like the marching band drum, snare drums, and then with the trumpets or whatever it was, I can't really remember, but in the piano. I liked how that ended. It was really cool. And then we get a song that was very Led Zeppelin influenced. The song Buried Alive. It had some Led Zeppelin style sounds to it, but then the end of the song it picks up with the heaviness. So, yeah, Buried Alive was a great song and one of their high points on the album. And then we get to another one of those dark songs, and the first real crazy. Well, Buried Alive was a powerful album or song title, but this next one, Natural Born Killer, it's basically kind of like a serial killer kind of song, and it's very fast and aggressive, and this is a fast song. I think this was the fastest song on the album. This was their thrashy song. So, and again, like I said, this was very sounding of City of Evil with the thrash and traditional heavy metal influences kind of mixed in. But Natural Born Killer was a great aggressive song. But now we get to the ballad. Well, one of I think 2 or 3. This album had the most ballads of any album they've done. But So Far Away was it's one of my all-time favorite power ballads, and it's a nice tribute to Jimmy the Rev, who's rocking out in heaven as we speak. I miss him so much. But So Far Away, this was a great way to pay tribute to to the band's best friend, and fantastic drummer and fantastic person. Funny dude too. If you watch the documentary of All Access, he did some funny, crazy stuff. So, but they say he's out of his mind in the most wonderful way. I couldn't have said it better myself. But yeah, So Far Away was a very fantastic song. But now we get to the darkest song on the album, God Hates Us, which was their most angry song I have ever heard them do. It was basically about. This was another one of those songs that kind of carried over from the last album with A Little Peace in Heaven. That was about rape and child abuse, spouse abuse, and just overall anger. And this song was very, very dark, anger driven. And I thought this was a great song. And then we get to the song Victim, which I thought it was a pretty good song. This was kind of a little bit influenced from Second Heartbeat, except not as heavy and fast, or even this is actually a slow song, but with how it sounded, kind of had sound like Second Heartbeat with the sound with the tunings tuned down to the C tuning. That's melodic death metal based, with the elements in it and stuff. I actually thought this was a really good song, I'll say. And now we get to Tonight the World Dies, which was a dark song, and it was a ballad sounding song with the acoustic guitars. But I thought this was the weakest song on the album, but it was still a pretty good song. But then we get the song Fiction, which was very piano driven. And this was uh, one of only two songs on the album before he passed away that he did background vocals on, and he played piano on this song. So, yeah. But Fiction I thought was a great song. And then we end the album with the band's longest song, 11 minutes. The song "Save Me" I thought was a great. I thought it was a great song. I liked it. But if you got the iTunes Deluxe Edition, it came with the bonus track "Lost It All," which, if you count with the full album, it's the shortest song at nearly 4 minutes. But this was another one of those very fast songs, and I thought it was a great song. So overall, Nightmare as a whole was another great album. I'd give it about a 9.25 out of 10. I thought it was still a great album. But yeah, that concludes the Avenged Sevenfold Discography review series. 5 episodes done in one night in like an hour. But I had fun doing this. Hopefully maybe next week or in a couple weeks, whenever I'm in the mood, I'll do another discography review. And excuse me. And the band that I'm going to do the discography review is going to be Megadeth. And oh my god, I'm going to have so much recording to do because they've had 14 studio albums ever since they started in 1983. So I've got a lot of work to do with that discography review series. Whenever I do it, most likely next weekend, I'll be trying to record most of the episodes in one night or whatever. But yeah. But yeah, the next discography review series will be Megadeth, and that's going to be so much fun because Megadeth, right behind Avenged Sevenfold and Metallica, is one of my all-time favorites. So yeah. And I made it in the can. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the Avenged Sevenfold Discography review series, and I know after this album came out, Hail to the King came out, but at the same time I already reviewed it. And actually, before I go, I wanted to mention a couple other quick notes. A little bit after this album, and after like the first year of the tour when Mike Portnoy left the band in early 2011, they hired Aaron LJ to take the place on drums, and he can play the Rev style very, very well. And I thought he did a great job on Hail to the King. But after this, they came out with an EP called Welcome to the Family, where it had the song Welcome to the Family, but it had an unreleased song that was in the Nightmare sessions. 4 a.m., which I thought was a great song. And then in 2011, they did a single for Call of Duty Black Ops 1 on the song Not Ready to Die, which I thought was a really damn good song. And then in 2012, last year, they came out for Black Ops 2, I believe Black Ops 2, yeah, Black Ops 2, the song Carry On, which was a fantastic song, and a thrash influenced song. So yeah, that was all the stuff from the Nightmare era, and that does it for this series. Until next video, peace.